final two things that I might not have heard me on is just a quick hydrogen update at the end, and then into any other business with a few other things to mention. Okay, so let's, if my dreadful internet connection will allow me, let's go around and do some quick introductions. So my name's Stephen Hughes, and I'm the chair of Chester Sustainability Forum. And outside of that, I am also the director of a small community interest company called Forest City Projects, who delivers urban biodiversity projects in Chester and the surrounding area. And I also got a new role as the sustainability coordinator for Europe and Middle East Asia of a large chemical distribution company. So those are my sustainability roles. Martin, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Martin Preston. I'm secretary and treasurer. I'm involved in various other groups, including Friends of the Earth, who can't make it tonight. So I'll be reporting back to them.
Great. John Taken? I think you're muted, John. Apologies.
John Taken, representing Chester World Development Forum. Do apologise for muting myself.
No problem, thank you. Becky Henningley.
Yeah, hi, I'm Becky, co-chair of the Nature Campaign Group, Chester National Park City.
Great. Grace Marshall, I think might be a first-time attendee.
Hi, yes, I am first-time attendee this evening. So I'm Grace. I'm Sustainability Manager working in Cheshire for NHS Cheshire and Merseyside Integrated Care Board. So for those of you who may not be fluent in NHS, that's basically the local commissioning body. So we hold a pot of money for commissioning health services locally.
Great, thank you very much. Simon Dowell.
Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. So I'm Simon Dowell. I'm Conservation Science and Policy Director at Chester Zoo. So this evening I'm representing Chester Zoo. My colleagues can't. So you've got me. Okay.
And a pleasure it is. Thank you, Simon. John Violet.
Oh, good evening, everybody. Yes, I represent Cycling UK for the Chester and Cheshire West area.
Great, thank you. Tammy?
I'm a mute button there. Tammy, I'm the Sustainability Manager at the University of Chester. So representing there along with a couple of other colleagues as well.
Great, thank you very much. Andrew Needham?
Hello, yes, I'm from the Energy Institute Northwest.
Fantastic, thank you, Andrew. Jade?
Hi, I'm Jade. I'm the Graduate Transport Strategy Officer at the University of Chester and also Project Coordinator for Chester Youth Climate Action Network. So I work quite closely with Tammy and Rebecca.
Great. Jackie Creswick.
Hi, I'm Jackie Creswick, Chair of the Friends of Cordy Nature Park, also involved in various other green issues, which I won't let too long to list.
Fantastic, thank you, Jackie. Rebecca Collins.
I'm Rebecca Collins. I'm currently acting head of geography and environment at the University of Chester, and as of the 3rd of January I'm now director of the Sustainability and Environment Research and Knowledge Exchange Institute, which doesn't get any shorter every time I say it, also at the university.
Great, thank you. Josh Simpson.
Yeah, I'm Josh. I'm co-founder and head of sustainability at Impact Score, so I'll be talking for a little bit later on.
Great, thank you. John Mason.
Yeah, John Mason. I'm fellow director with Steve at Forest City Projects, and I'm also a planning and environmental consultant.
Fantastic. Andy Hamill.
Evening all. I'm Andy Hamill. I'm here representing the Chester Cycle Campaign and the Sorgall resident.
Fantastic. James Melling.
Hello, I'm the Campaigns Officer at Cheshire Wildlife Trust, and I also support Becky's group at the Chester National Park City Group.
Fantastic, Neil.
Hi, I'm Neil McFadden. I'm involved in various things, but I'm a Greenpeace speaker is one of them.
You choose a different one every time, isn't it? Catherine Green.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Catherine Green. I'm in various environmental action and pressure groups, and I'm here, I think this evening, the only person, possibly nearly, from Transition Chester. I'm the treasurer at Transition Chester, which is now acting as an umbrella group also for Newton Hollows and Newton Narrows and Mickle Trafford tree planting action group as well.
Great. Oh, Rebecca, you've moved. So hopefully, I'm right in saying that Rachel Smith is the last one. I haven't missed anyone else out.
Yeah, hi. I'm representing Nest and Earth Group. We're a small environmental community group, and just trying to make connections really and find out what's going on in the area.
Fantastic. Well, this is the place. Okay, so that's the introductions. The next thing I said I was going to mention is our new patron, our new MP. So I've had a lengthy conversation with Sam Dixon, who's going to carry on joining our forum meetings in a similar way to what Chris was previously. Today is an exception because it's the funeral of her father-in-law today, unfortunately, so she's taken some time away. But yes, going forward, she's going to be attending the meetings, and from the like I said, lengthy discussion that we had, I asked her for what her priorities are going to be for the next, let's say, couple of years, maybe less, we'll see. But what she wants to deliver from a sustainability point of view, and the ways in which we could help drive that forward. As well as that, she was also keen that this collaboration flows both ways, and should there be campaigns, initiatives that we want to press as a group, and we want to be taken to Parliament, then she's happy to like I said, to have the collaboration flow both ways. And so we'll come on later on in the meeting to potential campaigns that they can, of course, be national or local, or however we see fit, or tie into the campaigns that the various organisations here have got going at the moment. So yes, that's Sam and our new patron. Was there any questions related to that? Obviously, I know Chris had started the group with Colin, or what would it have been, 2017, I think the first meeting was. And I know sometimes change can cause unease, but was there anyone who had any questions for me they wanted to ask? Or questions for me to put to Sam about the group? Okay, well, if any of them come up as we go forward, then feel free to put them in the chat or email me directly. Okay, so Martin is just going to give a brief review of last year's events. Just before that, I just want to say that the next meeting, which will be the first Thursday of March, so that'll be the 2nd, will at least be a hybrid meeting. So we'll be in person, hopefully the majority of us, at the university. Tammy assures me we haven't quite booked an exact room yet, but there's hopefully lots available there. So yes, the meeting on the 2nd, Thursday the 2nd of March will be in person with hopefully the option to join virtually. Okay, so as I said, Martin's going to give us a brief overview of last year's events and the campaigns that we've run.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Hang on, let me just bring. I've got one slide to present, if I may. Hope you can see that. I thought it's worthwhile. We're going to be talking about what we do this year. It's probably worthwhile reflecting back on what we did last year. I think particularly as probably some of the folks who are on this call may have joined us later on in the year. So I just did a quick look at what we covered, what we'd achieved last year. Early on, 4th of Feb, we hosted the HyNet public meeting, a well-attended meeting in the Story House, which some of you may well remember, which was, we had several speakers join us from across the UK, some in person, some on Zoom, and that really stemmed from a lot of polarization, I think, around HyNet and hydrogen and so on, which certainly hasn't gone away, but hopefully we shed some light on it in that meeting. And we're going to be talking about hydrogen a bit later on. Throughout last year, we've been collaborating with others, particularly in the cycling area, around something called ATFest, Active Travel Festival. And I represented the forum at those meetings, working with Stephen Perry, Steve Densley, who's a member of the forum, and others, Vanessa Bond from Prague, and Tammy. And that work is still ongoing. There's a few challenges around Active Travel Festival, but that's something that we've been working with on and off over the last year to try and pull that together, try and raise the money and try and put on that event, which, if we're successful, will run in June, I think, just after the Green Expo. A lot of what we do in the forum is really, I think, showcasing the work of others. I've just listed some of the things that we have showcased there. Steph Ellis joined us for one or maybe two meetings to talk about sustainable food places. Neil, who's on the call, mentioned the Green Expo then. Neil, a big part of organising that. And in fact, actually, there'll be another one. You can see the logo at the bottom of the screen there, June 15th to 17th. Neil's heavily involved in again. The big plastic count, Sean English, who's a Greenpeace representative, sits on the forum, has done a lot of work on that, and we tried to help publicise that last year. The ever-present Helen Tandy of Eco Communities, who covers far too many things to mention. And I don't know, unfortunately, he's not on the call tonight. But a few of the things that we've covered off on the call, and Helen's covered off: Plastic Free Cheshire, the litter pick hubs, and that picture sort of at the top of the screen shows what one of these hubs looks like in a little sort of thing with wheels on and the airboard and so on. She runs the successful Tellus magazine, the Cheshire Cup, and various other things. Festival for Future, we talked about. Poppy joined us from the West Cheshire Museums. And that was a festival covering many museums across Cheshire. The Chester Youth Climate Action Network, Chester Youth Can, which is Jade, who's on the call tonight. I think many more, actually. I've just picked a few there. The ones that stood out for me, where we've showcased the work that's going on, tried to help promote it, make raise awareness of it, and so on. One of the things we tried to do last year was run campaigns and pull together information to help residents. And one that we spent a fair bit of time with was around home energy. Mark Thompson, who unfortunately can't make the meeting tonight, who's a bit of an expert on home energy. He's put together that website, getenergysavvy.info. There's a heck of a lot of information there. And I think one thing that we may want to talk about when we look at what we're doing this year is how we take forward that resource that Mark's created. You know, all the information there, all the expertise that's bundled in that, and how we bring that to bear, I think, on people who need it, really. In particular, the residents of Chester and West Cheshire. So, and beyond. Why not?
Just pop the link for Mark's site in the chat there if you want to have a review of that. It's been getting some, as Martin said, some real traction. I think there's definitely some national newspaper articles on the stuff that he's done, and yeah, given the cost of energy at the moment, it's incredibly relevant. Something that Mark gave us a review. Sorry to interrupt, Martin. Mark gave us a breakdown of the things that had gone on and various bits and pieces. But one that he mentioned in this review was that the thermostatic radiator valve, actually controlling that properly. Salford University done some tests that shows it can reduce your energy bills by 18% just using your TRV properly. It's unbelievable. Anyway, so definitely check out the site that I've put on and see what comes, see what you find relevant.
Yeah, good stuff, Steve. Chester Youth, sorry, the youth campaign. In fact, actually, we had a great meeting. Could have been the last meeting actually. We had a youth takeover of the forum, which brought a lot of fresh perspectives, I believe. Rebecca, James there. I think Jade was involved, and others actually not on this call. So a fantastic night we had there. They're doing a lot of great work, which we're going to talk about later on. COP27, Climate Youth, Tammy heavily involved in that. We did want to do more actually at COP27, but we had some difficulties running the event in the cathedral that we've done the previous year. And so we decided not to proceed with that. And I've added that at the bottom of the I guess fracking has come up a number of times, not surprisingly, over the course of last year. And we re-emphasised, in particular Chris Matheson re-emphasised his personal opposition to fracking, and I think we did on the calls as well. A few logos there around which have reared their heads in the course of our meetings. But that's just to give you a flavour, really, of what we have done and I guess what we're about, really. I think in an ideal world, we'd probably want to have done more campaigning. Always difficult. Or maybe that's something we'll think about going forward this year. So I guess that's about all.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think the campaigns that we did run were successful, as you mentioned, Mark's campaign and the continued success with the National Park City. The youth event that we did in the cathedral was certainly a success. I'm sure Tammy would agree. I think we had about 120 kids of primary school and secondary school age over the day. We had speakers and events, activities for them to be doing, and it was very well received from not only the pupils but the teachers as well. And the key element was that instead of it being an open event when anybody would attend, we brought an entire classroom along, because from this is actually Rebecca Collins's idea. The previous year we'd been involved in a climate youth conference that was run on a Saturday, and the only kids or only children that came along were the children of already climately engaged parents, and therefore the impact was actually relatively minimal. Whereas this year's event, having an entire class means that you've got the whole spectrum of everyone within that class there at the event, and I think that was the real key a real key factor in it, and one of the major successes. So I think that's definitely something that we'd like to do again in the winter around the next COP. Martin mentioned about it being different from the event that we'd run the previous year. I think that was partly due to demand, but also partly because of the Story House climate event that had been put on the week before, and so the number of speakers and academics that were talking at that event meant that the need really to duplicate that the week after just wasn't really there, and that was a very successful event that I hope they look to run again next year. You got any thoughts on that, Tammy? Has there been any discussion about the Story House climate next year? Or
yeah, I know the feedback's gone back up to the management team at Story House, so there's definitely interest in doing something similar. I've not caught up with the rest of the organising group yet, and I think it's also just worth pointing out that I think because we've already had so many of those kind of like fair events happening in the autumn anyway, because Helen's not on here, is she? The Big Green Week was in the September, and the zoo had your Connections Festival. So there had been like, I think I saw James Melling about 3 weekends running. So not that that's a problem, James. I don't mean that at all.
How awful for you, Tammy, subjected to James 3 weekends in a row.
But I think it was that point that we're kind of calling on the same people for different events for representation around this group, and that we just need to be conscious of kind of commitment that we're asking the same people to attend very similar style events. So I think, maybe some thoughts for this coming one about how we, or for November time, how we link the youth action groups as something perhaps either different or weave in the forum a little bit more. I know a lot of the forum members are involved in the Story House event, but happy to kind of take thoughts on that over the coming months and stuff.
Yeah, and actually, that's not just applicable to the event at the end of the year. Actually, it's applicable to any campaign that we run, isn't it? It's getting beyond the echo chamber that often exists in this isn't specific to sustainability. Often, if you're involved in a certain type of group, then you can often be talking to the same kind of people again and again, and that's fine for certain groups. But when it's something as important and as fundamental as sustainability, it really does require us to go beyond the same people again and again. Exactly how you do that, though, is very difficult, obviously. Yes, so the campaigns discussion, we'll move into that in a second, but one of the topics that was brought to my attention by the geography teacher at Queen's Park High, and this could, I think, really could be a solid campaign for us this year, is that the AQA syllabus for GCSE geography, which I believe I'm right in saying the majority of schools in England are AQA. I think there are some other bodies, EdExcel and some others, but I think the majority are on AQA, has very little to do with climate change or sustainability in it. The actual focus is very little. When it comes to A level, apparently that's completely flipped and is almost entirely focused on sustainability and the climate crisis. But from a GCSE point of view, it's not really there. And so I know there's a lot of people on the call that work with children, work with in this kind of area, and it feels to me like something that needs to change and could be changed, but exactly how we'd go about that, I'm not so sure. Does anyone got any thoughts on that? There's a couple of messages in the comments here. Stephen Savory, do you want to say what you've said there?
Yeah, last year we ran a competition for schools for them to come up with ideas just for do energy saving in their own school. But obviously it got involved with getting information about it and I suppose learning quite a lot about climate change, etc. along the way. So we run it again this year, closed on 31st of March. So perhaps I'll try and circulate information to everybody so that can go around this group. Yeah, so I suppose it's one small way, if you like, of actually encouraging you know, children school age to actually think about things. Yeah. Simon, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yeah, to just say that Chester Zoo is campaigning on conservation in the curriculum at a national level, and the people who are doing the most work are not here tonight, unfortunately, but I know we're engaging with the Education Ministry on this, and it's certainly one of our big policy campaigns. And obviously that's got a focus on biodiversity conservation, but also sustainability and, you know, climate change issues as well.
Okay, great. Do you know who is it that you're talking to? Did you say the ministry?
I don't. It's Charlotte Smith, my colleague, my direct colleague, who's doing most of this work now. But Hannah, who's on this group, she's not able tonight, but I'll pass it back to her because she'll be able to provide you with some more detailed information. We do have a curriculum advisory group at the zoo, which consists of teachers from, including geography teachers actually, from the region. So they kind of have an input into this. So it might be something that this group could input into as well. So I'll get Hannah to contact you, Steve.
Yeah, great. Absolutely. Yeah. Catherine Green.
Thanks, Steve. There's a local prominent Green activist, Nick Brown, who's head of geography at a school in North Wales. So I think he'd be happy to probably talk to this group. Yeah, he might have some ideas.
Is he chair of the Green Party?
He has been.
Is that a different?
I'm not sure if he is at the moment, but he is a Green Party member.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't find some way to involve introduce climate change into the curriculum.
Yeah, I think this is what sorry, Rebecca, come on to you in a second. I think this is what the geography teacher at Queen's Park High was saying, is that she's using the curriculum and manipulating it in order to work the climate change element into it. But if there are teachers not doing that, then it's not actually a compulsory thing. You know, it's not fundamentally there, and actually it's one step detached and more difficult for them to do. But yeah, so yeah, it'd be good to get Nick's thoughts on it. Simon, I presume yours is a legacy hand. Anyway, we'll go Rebecca.
I just wondered whether anyone has looked at the AQA GCSE geography spec to see how much climate change and sustainability content there is in there, because I've just got it open in front of me now. Obviously, I am a geography educator. I am a geographer, so ensuring that there's plenty of sustainability and climate change content in geography at all levels is really important. But I just think before this group takes any decision to campaign on anything like this, it needs to do its due diligence, which involves, number one, looking at the spec, looking at comparable specs for both GCSE and A-level, and also talking to a wider sample of teachers. as well, because a
Yeah.
certain amount is in teachers' gift. And some obviously, if climate change is important to them, will absolutely run with the topic, and others won't. But that doesn't mean that they aren't running with topics that aren't just as important and complementary to climate change as a topic. So
Yeah.
while I'm really supportive of anything that is kind of promoting geography education, a really good quality geography education, I just think this group needs to just take a moment and do that due diligence.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, it was something that I took as read, but actually I should have been immediately skeptical of her as well, in order to like you say, do the due diligence. But yeah, I think it's something that we should definitely look at. Is it something? Does it at a glance? Is it something you've been aware of previously, Rebecca?
I know there's been a fair amount of change in the content of both the GCSE and A-level spec in recent years, but I've never been aware in sort of my professional capacity and through the Royal Geographical Society and the Geographical Association as learned bodies. I certainly haven't been aware of any concern within those kind of professional bodies about a lack of climate change content. But I'm meeting with fellow geography heads of department in a couple of weeks, so I can ask.
Yeah, that would be great to get, like you say. Well, that in itself will be doing. One of the points that you said is in getting a wider sample of opinions on what it actually is. So yeah, some feedback from that point of view would be really interesting. I'm just furiously trying to make some notes. Jade Cox.
Thank you. Just to sort of reflect what Rebecca said as well, in my limited time as a teacher, I think whilst the intention can be there to cover climate change, it's to what scale as well and to what depth. So as much as you don't want to teach the exam, there is that limitation if you've got to get through the spec and there's a limited amount of time to do so. And so whether climate change and sustainability is or isn't mentioned, to what extent you teach that is down to the teacher and the class size and the school and the background of that school. So there's a lot of different factors that feed into what can actually be delivered to a class. And I think that's important to note. And another thing to highlight, which I can pop in the chat, is Teach the Future created a report where they picked apart the national curriculum at Key Stage 3 and 4 across a lot of subjects from history, art, design, everything. And they wrote in sustainability and climate change into that curriculum. So that may be a good sort of starting point, but I'm happy to share that.
Yes, please do. What was it? Teach
Teach the Future. I've got all of the links, so I can send them all over.
Oh, please do. Yeah, that's really good. Yes, great. James?
It's sort of related to this, but it's not quite to talk about content and courses, but I'm sort of in an early conversation with Friends of the Earth nationally to see if we can perhaps partner up with them to help deliver their sort of course that they're doing with colleges. So it's an extracurricular course that's evolved around getting young people campaigning, which is why I'm involved, and try and get them sort of working on issues like greener neighborhoods and things like that. So it sort of fits squarely with like the National Park City agenda and greening sort of cities and things like that. So it's probably just worth mentioning that I'm looking into that, and because I know colleges are not an area that are particularly well covered, but it might be worth conversation. I know with everyone at the uni, I know we talk a lot, but it possibly is something we might want to team up on. And if I think the main thing stopping me getting that at the moment is funding. So I guess if anyone knows of any big pots of money that they would like to push my way, that would be brilliant. But yeah, any thoughts and tips? Yeah, feel free to run by me.
Good. Okay. Yeah, there's lots. There's some good stuff to go on. I think, as Rebecca said, the first step in the process is to have a genuinely solid review of the, like you say, of the spec, and see what yeah, what it's actually like, and yeah, increase the sample size of people discussed about it, including Nick Brown, about how he feels about the spec. And so any other geography teachers that you think we can contact, then please let me know. Is anybody else seeing chat disabled, or is that just me? Is there something?
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, I was going to drop the AQA spec in the chat, but I can't.
Yeah, I don't
So,
know.
sorry, folks.
Is that something you can fix, Martin?
I don't know. I'll have a look at it. I don't think I've done anything. But, and it was working, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Leave it with me. I'll see. I'll be beavering away while you're talking.
Okay. Like I said, that's good. There's some actions there to drive forward. Okay, so so it's working for Martin. Anybody outside of this, any other campaigns that you think that we could be driving forward, or potentially, maybe more relevantly, campaigns that your various organisations are looking to drive forward that we can be supportive of, or? Nothing coming to mind. Is it very?
Steve? Are we talking general campaigns, or are we talking?
Yeah, I think they are talking general campaigns. I think, yeah, outside of the education. I think, yeah, obviously from a sustainability point of view. So any that ties into the 6 sections of the climate emergency response plan, I think would be great.
Yeah, I've got quite a few coming up. 1 in 2 weeks is National for the Wildlife Trust is HS2. I know it's not really affecting Cheshire West, but it's obviously one everyone sort of usually feels quite strongly about. And obviously we've got our Sean Hawkins Nature Reserve, which isn't too far away. It's more sort of over in the east of here, but that's obviously been destroyed by HS2 and it's been compulsory purchased, and it's got a population of waterfowl. So we're keen to sort of talk about that. So there's going to be some national call to action. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but just to let you know that it's our team at Cheshire that have published this big report that's going to come out nationally in 2 weeks. So we've done all the sort of recalculations of HS2's biodiversity net gain calculations, and basically just showing what we're going to show is that it's falling well short of what they're claiming to be doing for nature. So just to flag that's on the way. Another one that I'm going to be looking at this year is trying to get more people sort of obviously campaigning to get wildflowers in the community with things like Grow Don't Mow that we were running, so No Mow May, things like that. And I know Butterfly Conservation had the big butterfly count, so I'm going to try and reach out to councillors and any local wildlife champions who might want to sort of promote that little initiative in their community and just sort of feed them resources. So that's another one. And then obviously there's the National Park City campaign going on as well, which I'll have more. Well, we'll have a lot more to say as we have our meeting next week and planning out the year ahead. So once we've done that, we should have a lot more to mention.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, lots of things to go on there. So all conservation focus, which is good. Yeah, the more information you can send on that, the better. We'll, yeah, of course, do what we can on that point of view. Jackie Creswick.
Thanks, Steve. It's just to say, really, I think Catherine, it was who touched on Transition Chester. It's not a campaign as such, but they're a body similar to this that sort of involve other groups. And Incredible Edibles, I think, are a very good group. Not that I know an awful lot about them, but that could be sort of drawn into campaigns or could be campaigning themselves to spread the message.
Yeah, we don't have any representatives from. Yes, we do. Simon Brown normally joins us from Incredible Edible, doesn't he? Yeah, so we do normally have someone from the Incredible Edible join us here. Yeah, a fantastic campaign in itself, but like you say, maybe not absolutely relevant for what I was thinking. Something yeah, more novel, slightly more, yeah, that's not being done currently. Andy Hamill.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, just a couple of points. One, the active travel campaign that we supported last week. I'm sort of assuming we're going to see that through or be with that through to its fruition. Is that
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
case?
Martin's currently still involved with it. I presume you're talking about AT Fest.
Yeah, the AT Fest.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Martin's still involved with those meetings, as is Tammy in a university capacity. So that's something that we're still, yeah, definitely still involved with, and still,
Yeah.
still.
Okay. I just didn't want to see it drop off the agenda. The other one as a sort of campaign idea. I wonder whether anybody is doing anything around the air quality, clean air. I know the QAC are monitoring, and it's you know, we're able to see some of those some of that monitoring. I wonder whether we should you know, whether that's something you know, particularly Chester, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, as
Yeah,
a
no, definitely.
okay.
Because there was talk a long time ago now in one of these meetings, actually, about the idea of a low carbon zone, and but the cost in implementing it was incredibly prohibitive, I thought, in the start. But the thing is that one of these, I'm glad you've got your hand up, Grace. One of the reasons that, or one of the potential benefits was the savings that it was going to make from an NHS point of view, from a public health point of view. Once you put this, you know, cameras and road markings and everything else that goes along with implementing clean air zones. Yeah, it's a shame we haven't got any Matt or Richard on here, any local politicians that could give us a bit more of an update on that one, actually, on what the if there is any plan, and what the, like you say, the monitoring is looking like. Maybe this is
Could
one
we write to them, maybe?
Yeah,
If
well, they
that's,
normally attend this meeting, actually.
Yeah.
So I'll drop them a message and see what else could come of that.
And another obvious one sort of in Chester is the state of the D as well, in terms of sort of water quality.
Yes.
Whether
Well, when I spoke to Sam Dixon, that was the one that she mentioned that she thinks is going to be top of her agenda when she comes to the meeting in March.
Great.
So I think from then on, the water quality in the D is going to be one of our campaigns for this year. But yeah, no, good. Thank you for bringing that up again.
Cheers.
Go ahead, Grace.
Thanks. So just actually, before I come on to my point, just to really echo what was said about air pollution, that is absolutely something which we're looking to try and raise awareness about, and see what steps that we can take with NHS organisations and travel and transport as well, to try and reduce our impacts. And I know it's not Chester related, apologies for that, but as we work across Cheshire and Merseyside, we are starting to look into some investigations piloting in Liverpool, but hopefully those will be rolled out across Cheshire and Merseyside over the coming years. So hopefully there'll be more to update on that in future. But the campaign which I had wanted to share with you, it's not a specific kind of time-bound campaign, but what we have done is we worked together with Cheshire West and Chester Council, and we produced a series of green videos which kind of highlight things which the public can do, which is good for the environment and for our own health and well-being. So it was just kind of to ask if members of the group may be happy to share those on your channels. I can drop the link in the chat if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely what the forum's about, sharing those kind of things as wide as possible. So yes, absolutely feel free to share them. Do you is the content and the volume of those videos at the stage that you would want it to be? Is there more to be doing, or is this quite an old campaign now that needs a bit of reinvigorating?
So the videos were released, gosh, I was going to say this year, middle of last year now. So they are still reasonably fresh, I would say, but certainly if anyone does have any thoughts, oh, this could be improved or that could be improved, certainly would love to hear from you, because nothing particular, I think, in sustainability is ever strictly static, and there's always more that can be added to and expanded on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Final question, because I remember asking this at the time, I don't think I had an answer. So you were saying earlier that you work in procurement within the NHS. Is that right?
No.
Is there? No, sorry.
It's not specifically procurement, so it's commissioning. So if you picture it, I suppose there's the central NHS England body, and then there's the hospital trusts and the GP practices. The integrated care board, as it's called now, is that layer which sits in between, and handles the commissioning of those sorts of health services like hospitals and GP practices on a smaller footprint than England.
Yes, indeed. And so there's no function within any of the budgets that are around you in order to kind of take the step before as a preventative measure, if you like, as opposed to a treatment once someone has a respiratory illness. There's no kind of preventive, because this is, if you were talking about the implementation of clean air zones or that kind of thing, if there was some kind of, like I said, preventative measures budgets, then maybe it could tap into that. At least I'm not suggesting it would pay for an entire thing, but is there any ideas that you think could partially fund something like that? Or
I'm not aware of any funding for that locally. That is something, I mean, certainly preventative healthcare is something that is obviously sat within the NHS and working in partnership with the local council. So it would be Cheshire West and Chester Council and the Public Health Department there. So that could be certainly something to look into. So I can make some inquiries and follow up on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, do. Just the sounds, because I think it would probably be a relatively, not novel, but a relatively obscure thing for some of the traditional applications that it must be getting for preventative measures for healthcare. But it would be interesting to see what a reaction to that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, air pollution is I think according to the World Health Organization, the single greatest health risk. So it's certainly significant. So yeah, I'll follow up.
Great, thank you. John Byler?
Yeah, picking up on this conversation on air quality, it's interesting that Cheshire West Council just appointed a anti-carbonation officer. Her name's Karen Stevens, and I think she's only just started in December. She's in the highways department, and I've got a meeting with her a week on Friday, so I'll start to get an idea of what her extent of her remit is. It's encouraging that Cheshire West have actually appointed somebody just specifically on this topic.
What is that? Is it anti-carbonation?
Yes.
What does that mean? Anti-carbonation, less carbon dioxide.
I think it's decarbonisation, officer.
Is it decarbonisation?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry.
We've been talking with her around the Active Travel Festival as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But they've already got two people working on climate change issues. There's Will and Ablett.
Yeah, the team's
Yeah.
getting. Oh, sorry, Steve.
No, go on. I'm struggling with my internet connection again. So you take.
Oh, yeah, chip in when you're back. Double act. Yeah, the council, so the climate change team, I know Will's had a couple of new appointments. So George is leading on the home energy side, and Rachel Moan is looking at the kind of fuel poverty aspect, I think is the other one in the team. There might be somebody else that I've forgotten about as well. And then under Rose's team within the Transport and Highways Directorate, that team's also expanding. So I know there's somebody working on their travel plan. We're also about to meet with somebody else. So that team's also expanding. And given that was kind of my point, picking up on the kind of air quality and what campaigns we can do.
Yeah.
The university, the council, the zoo, and Chester Countess, Grace, it's Jill and Russ. I can't remember their surnames for the life of me at the minute. But we've got a group there which are kind of working together to look at how we can all develop our travel plans to actually promote more sustainable and active travel across Chester. It is Chester focused. And I think in our last meeting, or one of our last ones towards the end of the year, we were really kind of focused on park and ride. And I wonder if this is something that we can really actually do in the next few months as a collective group, is to kind of work together to promote the park and ride service and the bus service. I need to double check that. I think Cheshire West is also on the kind of £2 single fare cap, but I need to double check that. And I just wonder if there's something we can do to actually support the council in upping, or at least trying to up numbers on buses, so that it demonstrates that demand rather than losing services, as we know things aren't going. We're on costs being cut, aren't they? So anything we can do to actually promote the use, which meets our sustainability aspect, but also kind of maintains that longevity of services, that if we lose those, then it's a lot difficult to kind of get them back, isn't it? Are you back with us, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the promotion of the park and rides when you're internally in Chester has always been difficult, because the target audience for the park and ride isn't Chester residents. So again, as we're saying, how you go get out of that and get wider is always a difficult issue, but something that we can definitely look at. Okay, good. Well, there's lots of beginnings of potential campaigns there. I think between myself, Tammy, and Martin, we'll go away with these sparks of campaigns and try and dig deeper, particularly on the education element. The air quality, I think, seems to tie into a few different things there, so it's definitely something I think we can be involved with in future meetings. And then as we also mentioned, the Dee River water quality, as well as the promotion of other elements. I forgive me, Grace and pardon me, Grace and James. I see those things as great promotion, something that we should definitely be promoting, but I don't absolutely see them as campaigns per se. So I think, yes, feed us the content, we'll distribute it to our networks, but maybe not quite so much in the exact vein that I was thinking. But really good discussion, really good ideas there. Okay, so unless there's anything else that someone's to bring up, with regards to campaigns, then I think we can move on.
Sorry, Steve, I was just going to mention that We certainly will want to, I think, look at the work that Mark Thompson's done, won't we, on energy savings. And I think maybe, you know, look at how we can better get this out to the residents, really. So that's something we maybe sort of pick up as a small group with working with Mark.
Absolutely.
Looking at
Yeah.
what he's achieved there and how beneficial it's likely to be with people who are just unfamiliar with that stuff, and what's the best way of getting it to them. Really.
Indeed, indeed.
Sorry.
Okay. So as long as you can hear me and I'm not breaking up, so we're going to go on to our first of a couple of speakers tonight. So so we've got two representatives from Earth Matters here. We've got Shabana, am I correct in my pronunciation? And we've also, yeah, Shabana and John. Hi. Beyond that, do you want to do your introductions and give us a brief overview of Earth Matters?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Shabna, actually, is how it's pronounced, and this is John. And we run a workshop called Planet Matters for businesses and owner-managed companies. Do you want to introduce yourself, John?
Yes, I'm a business owner. I have a small factory in Eccles, Manchester. We manufacture display panels and office screens and dividers. And I've had that for a number of years. We employ about 20 people there. And when I first met Shabna a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, one of the first things she asked me was, what impact is my business having on the planet? And what am I doing about it? And I'd never actually engaged in that conversation. So I took it to my business. It started a very interesting chain of events, resulting in us becoming a lot more conscious of what we could do. For example, we chop down trees when we're making our display frames and panels and notice boards. So we now have an initiative started by the management that whenever we take an order, we plant a tree. And I'm delighted to report that after about 18 months, 21 months, we planted over 10,000 trees in partnership with a company called Ecology, which you may have heard of. So I was the first guinea pig, but now let me hand you back to Shabna. She'll describe how we access owner-managed businesses.
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, it's not a usual dating question, like what does your business do about the ecology? But I've myself run 6 businesses in my time, and I had got to a stage where I was selling my business in 2018, and it's got sold in 2018. It took 5 years to sell the business, and while I was going through the process of the sale, I had this big plan that I'd sell the business and I'd get myself a passive income. So I registered myself for a massively expensive property mentorship course and was on track to buy properties and, you know, create a passive income. And the theory being that I'd go on cruises and stuff for the rest of my life. And of course, life did not have that in plan for me, because the more I looked into the state of the way we were treating our planet, the more uncomfortable I got with the way that we do business, with the way that we make money, with the whole thing. And after extensive soul searching, I guess, and research, I started being introduced to a book called Active Hope. I don't know if any of you have read that. The work of Joanna Macy is really about how we face the issues around the climate. She's been doing this work she calls deep ecology for over 30 years. And I joined Transition Lichfield. I was living in Lichfield at the time. And so we were involved in transitioning to a net zero economy with the Lichfield Council, which didn't always go too well, I have to say. And then I started Extinction Rebellion in Lichfield and Tamworth. So I was already doing this work when I met John, and he saw that I was doing all this and a business group that he was involved with which he'd been involved in for 20 years, had never even talked about their impact on the planet. So he asked me to give a talk, and one thing led to another, and now we've ended up giving talks to owner-managed businesses about the, I guess it's really when we go to businesses and business owners and we ask them the question, what's your level of engagement in this topic? What's your level of action? They're usually around, a lot of them, you know, they get all sorts, but they're usually around a 4 or 5, and they all want to do more, but they just don't know what to do. They feel disempowered by the whole topic because it's vast. We're doing one next week, and I spoke to the guy yesterday, and he said, well, he's in the construction industry, and he said that it's coming towards us because more and more bids we're getting are saying they want it to be a net zero, but we don't really know what to do. So we take them from that state. And I go through a number of processes, which I've put together the work of Joanna Macy, which is a spiral, which is really about honouring our pain for the planet. So we have to address the psychology of what people are going through at the moment, and then use that process of really, I think a lot of it is people feel disempowered, they feel grief, they feel sad, you know, their children are saying to them, what are you doing? You know, how come you've messed up the planet? There's a lot of rage from the children. And taking that and owning it, and then seeing what comes out of it at the other end. I've done a lot of work on this myself, obviously, because I ran a business for 25 years. And, you know, for me, it was always business as usual and profit only. I wanted a good life for my children and for myself. And nobody ever talked to me about the planet in my business. So I'm using what I've learned to educate other business owners and give them the opportunity, the time and the space, and invite them into this conversation from a place of, I've not come to you with any solutions. I've not come to you with any answers, but I'm just allowing you to have the conversations that you want to have. And let's look at this together. I've used work of Chris Robertson. I don't know if you've come across Chris Robertson's work. It's depth psychology. I use Charles Eisenstein's work, which is sacred economy and things like sacred commerce. So I use lots of material. And at the end, people really feel that they have a place to go with this. And
one of the techniques that SHOB has used really very well is that whenever we address a group of businesses, and last year we were able to touch over 100 businesses, we ask them to bring pictures, photographs of their kids with them, or a child that is important to them. And we take the tone really about legacy. And it's amazing how it changes the conversation when we start talking about the elders, the indigenous people who plan 7 generations ahead whenever they're discussing anything. And as a result of that, SHOB takes them through an emotional, actually a meditation, which for business people is unexpected, come out the other side, and they make pledges. They make pledges to the next 7 generations, and they commit to making a difference. And there's some wonderful work happening out there.
We ask them to make a pledge. So they bring a photo of their children, like John said, and we ask them to make a pledge to the next 7 generations. And the indigenous people made pledges. When they sat in circle, they did not make any decision that that impacted the next 7 generations. So they considered 7 generations hence, which is about 300 years. And we really pose the question, what if we all lived like that? What if we did not make any decisions without considering the impact on the next 7 generations? And they considered the children, and when they sat in circle and the council made a decision, they would have a person representing the trees. They call them the standing people. So we said, well, who's representing the trees in your organization? And we encourage them to have a CPO, a Chief Planet Officer. And most people love this, they want somebody to represent the planet. And then we asked them to make some very practical action points. And, business people love this. They're having the practical action points as well. But a lot of the work we do is about a change in consciousness. Einstein said that there can be no change without a change in consciousness. And really, that's what we try and do with our work. We allow them the spaciousness to process their emotions. And then at the end, there is a change in consciousness, and decisions, we feel a lot of the time are made from the head. We talk about making decisions from the heart space. And that's what the meditation does, is it drops people into their heart space. And when we make decisions with the head and the heart combined, that's the basis for making congruent decisions. And that's what we do. I'll give you an example of one of the people on our workshop. She was from a garden centre, a second generation. Her mom had always run the garden centre. She came to the workshop and completely conflicted. She had a little boy who was 3 years old, and was like, well, we need to make money. We've got garden centre to run, we've got staff and so on. And our workshop is half a day. It's about 3.5 to 4 hours. And at the end of it, I still felt that she wasn't quite cooked, if you like. She hadn't quite got it and was still quite conflicted. So I said to her, well, let's get on the phone and see what you really care about. And obviously she really deeply cared about the next generation. She wanted a world for her 3-year-old that was healthy and vibrant, and she couldn't see a way that could be provided. So we worked on her pledge for the next 7 generations, and she cared a lot about equality. So her pledge was around equality for all people. And then I happened to come across a video. What was the video? I forgot the video. I came across a video and sent it to her, and it was about the move from globalization. Oh, it's called Planet Local.
Planet Local.
Planet Local. It was about the move from globalization to localization, which is a lot of what we talk about, and the move to localized systems. So anyway, 3 days later, she phoned me, sent me a text and said, I've got it. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my garden centre and the field next to us, which is ours, I'm going to convert it into plots. And each of those plots, I'm going to give it to a local school. And the local schools can now start to teach their children how to grow vegetables and so on. And then I'm going to use vegetables from the plots into our cafe, and we're going to only sell produce from our cafe, which we've produced locally. And it was like a light had been switched on. And this is what we find time and again. When you give people the latitude to think about this at a wider level, at a systems level, as well as an individual level, they stop kind of thinking about net zero. I mean, it's important, all that, but I think firstly, let's have the conversation. Let's find out what you care about. Let's find out what's important to you. Let's pledge something. Let's work like the Indigenous people do, and take care of everyone. And let's take care of all people.
So, I mean, if this resonates with you, and obviously we'd like to get some feedback, but it may be an interesting idea to put on a workshop in Chester for businesses, for organizations, and we bring them in, we ask the questions that we ask the organizations we already speak to, and we give people, as Shob says, the space and the time to air the conversation and see what they can do, and instead of blinking like rabbits in a headlight whenever the topic comes up. And it's interesting, we show some videos. One particular video is of an Indian lawyer who single-handedly started to clean up Mumbai beach, which was a mess. And he inspired local people and he got everybody educated about it. And he did it. He cleaned up the beach. And it just shows that, yeah, you can do something.
Yeah. The other thing, Martin asked us to talk about COP27. We've just been over to Sharm el-Sheikh and Dahab, and our role wasn't in the main COP27, but we're involved in an organization called the Mother Earth Delegation, whose mission has been to bring together Indigenous people from around the world and have them speak with one voice rather than disjointed voices, to have more power as a worldwide group of Indigenous tribal leaders. So we're involved with the Mother Earth Delegation, and they invited us to something called Culture COP. And Culture COP is a parallel event to the COP. And they find that the Indigenous people don't get many seats at the table. They applied for many passes, but they only got one person, Mendahi, who's from Mexico, to actually go to COP. He enjoyed the event and felt that he made a difference, but really, I don't think Indigenous people are given enough of a say at the COP meetings.
However, as a byproduct of that, we didn't see this coming. We were introduced to a young, very bright Egyptian entrepreneur. He was 34 years old. And when we told him what we're telling you today, this evening, that what we were involved in and what we'd chosen to do, he says, I will take on a project. And he actually took out his iPhone. We went into a quiet place in the hotel, and he addressed his iPhone and he made a film, and he said, it is now November 2028. And in the last 6 years, I've pledged to clean up the Nile. And he started an organization the next day, website and everything, got his first $50,000 donation. And he has committed the next 6 years to clean up the Nile, which is one of the planet's major arteries. And that came out of just a conversation. And we come back to this idea of having the conversation.
Yeah, it is all just a conversation. The other piece of work we're involved in with Mother Earth Delegation is to work with the Indigenous tribal leaders. So we have people from Mexico, from Ecuador, from Greenland, North America, from the Black Hills, from India, Indigenous from India, and from some of the African countries. They are sharing their Indigenous wisdom with us. How have they managed to survive on Earth for 200,000 years? And we, after 200 years, have just managed to make the planet toxic. There must be something that they're doing right that we're not doing. So we're in the middle of this process now, where we're looking at what they're sharing with us, the wisdom keepers, and they called it the Original Peoples Alignment Protocol. And we are developing the Original Peoples Alignment Protocol for businesses. So we're in partnership with Mother Earth Delegation doing that piece of work right now. It's not done, and we expect it to be done first quarter of next year. So I'll stop talking now and see if anybody's got any questions.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. That was, yeah, it was very interesting. Not only about your organisation, but yeah, the things that you're involved with the Mother Earth Delegation. Yes, it's something that. Yes, I think you made a comment in there that often businesses are incredibly focused on deliverables, on actions that come immediately out of these things, and sometimes a more wider, broad, holistic approach is definitely required. So it's fantastic to hear about your group. Just before we get on to questions, am I right in thinking your website is planetmatters.earth?
Yes, I've just put it in the chat. I've got my email and my website.
Oh, you've just done it. You've beat me to it. Okay. I was
yeah, one step ahead. Yeah. So feel free to contact me if you want. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Great. Okay. So I think we've got some questions there. So Tammy?
Well, less of a question because you've just answered it. It was going to be the website and contact details.
Okay.
But just for a bit of context, because I think I'm working with our business school at the minute. They're planning a professional futures day in the week beginning the 13th of Feb. And we've got a day in the middle of that week focusing on sustainability within business. And I think part of that is having kind of like a networking fair, that type of thing. I think it'd be really valuable to kind of connect you up with some of our business students. So it was more of a request if you'd be willing to potentially get involved in that.
I can.
Yeah, I would love to, and so would John. I'm not actually in the country on that week, but John is. So I'll put John's email address. Right?
Yeah. I was going to say, if you pop, I'll grab your details and I'll do some introductions, but that would be wonderful. I think it'd be really valuable just to have
do that. Yeah,
a slightly different perspective that's potentially not already in there. So yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'd both love to do that. Anything like that, you know, any outreach work like that that can help young people, I think would be great. Thank you.
Very good. Simon?
Yeah, hello, thanks very much. That was a really interesting and inspiring presentation. I just wondered, you talked a lot about COPs, and I wondered whether you had a sort of view on the way in which Indigenous people were involved in COP15, the biodiversity COP.
I don't know anything about that because it's only been since about 2019 that I've really been involved with this. But I can ask the question and come back because they will have been involved with it from the beginning and have an opinion.
Yeah, because actually I was lucky enough to attend part of that meeting, and my impression and sense of it was that Indigenous people, perhaps for the first time, were heavily engaged with that, and the resulting agreement has really strengthened their involvement in the targets and the goals. So it might be worth you having a look at the Montreal Kunming agreement that's come out of that.
Okay.
Just sort of to associated with that, obviously that's the biodiversity COP. We tend to focus on the climate COPs. They're the ones that get all the press attention, but I would urge you to really engage with the biodiversity COP. Really, my view now is the two should come together. I think it's bonkers that we have international meetings.
You put something in the chat for me to.
No, I will. I'll give you the link to the final agreement.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but thank you. That was really interesting. And the other, just briefly, if I may, the other point was that fascinated to hear your kind of engagement with small and medium-sized businesses. Have you also engaged with kind of bigger business and corporates? Do you find the approach works for them too?
When we sat and really thought about this, we wanted to work with small, medium businesses, and by medium, they are quite large. Some of them, many millions of pounds turnover. Because I wanted to work with people who can make a difference. So when we run a workshop, I know something shifts, and that shift that happens in that person will get implemented the next day within their organization. I've worked for big corporates before, so I've been a corporate person. It's a small cog in a big wheel, and I know that the process will be slower and my impact will be less within a big company. And I'm only one person, John's only one person. So we really made a strategic decision to make it like that. Although we are open to working with anyone who wants to, it just felt like that's where we could make the most difference.
And it's amazing. When you actually ask, we do an exercise where we ask the business owners to log down their circle of influence, their immediate numbers in the family, their staff, their communities, their clubs. And it's amazing what impact they have. And we believe that this should be a ground up movement or a ground up initiative, because government and big corporates, we have to leave to legislation. Actually, these people, as Shob said, can make a decision the next day, as in the case of Lucy at the Garden Centre. And that's thrilling and inspiring and immediate.
Yeah, and we enjoy it more.
We enjoy it more, yeah.
Indeed. Fantastic. Oh, sorry, did you? have something there, Simon?
No, I just wanted to say thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Final thing from Catherine before we move on to impact score.
Yeah, thank you. I think I agree that was really interesting. And I remember that I think it was in 2019 that there was quite a lot of emphasis from the Chester Sustainability Forum about how to engage with small businesses in Chester and how we would go about that. And then the pandemic took over and other things. So I think this is timely that you've come along. Something you said also reminded me that I was a bit sort of looked at the, I just wondered if a key group of maybe new small businesses in Chester that you could possibly look at together, whether they'd be interested in what through the council, would be the businesses in the new market. Because, I noted with a bit of bemusement that their advertising slogan is a play on the Earth Summit, the Rio Earth Summit headline that came out of the Rio Earth Summit. They're using the slogan "Shop local, eat global," and you know, I think that's something the opposite of what I do is sort of eat local. But you know, they don't mean that. It's just a play on words, and so yeah, I think it just made me think that putting those two together, you know, what you do with those small businesses and that slogan, which I think maybe needs looking at really. So thank you.
Well, if you've got ideas for the work we do to be brought into the locality of Chester, we'd be more than happy to.
We live near Manley Mere, so we're not far away.
Yeah, and it would save a bit of travelling for us because we end up travelling all around the country.
But the offer stands. If you think that your organisation can put on a workshop and invite these people, we'll do it.
Yeah,
let's see what happens.
I think, I think it's definitely, it's just, like I said before, it's a shame that that Councillor Beecham isn't here tonight, but I'll definitely put you in contact with him in order to engage with the business owners in the new market. I think that would be really good. Okay, thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
That's been really good to hear from you, and good to listen to what.
Thanks for the
pleasure to meet you all.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so one more thing. Sorry, one more thing I wanted to add, which I forgot, was that when we run these workshops, we whatever money we get paid for the workshops, we don't actually keep the money, but we give it to Mother Earth delegations. So it's both John and I are in that fortunate position that and we've simplified our lives hugely, that we would like to give back rather than take right now, and that's what we do with these workshops. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. Okay, so we've I think we've got both Ian and Josh here now. Are you both speaking? How are you working?
Yeah, just be me. Am I right to share a couple of slides?
Yeah, hopefully you should be able to.
Okay, I share this. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can do. Well, I can.
Do you have the presenter view now? Do you or?
Yeah, we can see your notes.
Oh, you can do. Oops. 1 second. Let me reshare this. There we go. Hopefully you can't see the notes anymore.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is my first time speaking at this forum, so I'm just going to use the opportunity to give a little bit of an intro to who we are and what we do. Thank you. It's been really interesting so far. I think there's a lot of common motivation amongst what we're doing and what you guys are doing and what you just spoken on before then. So I'll whiz through. It should be about 10 minutes or so, and I'll just give you an idea of where we come from, what we're up to, and then what we're hoping to get done in the next year, and see where we can share resources and use utility networks and things like that. So Impact Score started around about 2016. Well, the core ideas behind Impact Score did, as all good stories do, it started in the pub. This was when I was at university in Chester. I was working at a pub on the Wirral, and it was during the time that the Panama Papers came out. I don't know if anyone remembers them, but that was where a load of offshore accounts, the owners of them were leaked, and it became clear that the upper echelons of society weren't exactly acting in the best interest of the rest of us. So we were quite angry about all the revelations. And then shortly after this, the headline that lasted almost a week, which is hard to imagine nowadays, but it was true at the time, was the fact that Starbucks paid zero tax over, I think it was the last 4 years at the time. And so my colleague at the pub came to me because I had done some web design and IT stuff. And he said, I want to buy coffee, but he doesn't want to go to Starbucks anymore. Surely someone should have, we should be able to find out this information, who pays their tax. So that was kind of a simple idea that really spawned what we've got now. So this is the idea that people can't make the active decisions on what they want to buy and what they want to do because they don't have the information to hand. Since then, we gave it a go for as good as we could for about a year. This is us as two students, so our tip jar, money from our tip jars went into it. And we had help from Justin Madders, who's the MP for Ellesmere Port. And we gave it as good a go as we could, but we couldn't make it work. We found that it was too hard to get that data to people. So we kind of mothballed it and went off into our own careers, which was where I ran into Ian. So we were working in IT, in retail. So we were working with some large retailers, and we were interacting day to day with supply chain data and product data and things along those lines. We started having very similar conversations to those that sparked the idea initially. So whereas I came to the idea that we can't make decisions because we don't have the data, Ian, who is on the call now, I'm sure he'll be very quiet for the rest of this, came at it from the point of view of businesses need to do better. So between us, that was the explosion. The explosion that happened from that kind of interaction of anger and of frustration was Impact Score. So hopefully I can tap this on. This is just one slide about us. The headline at the top is our driving force. So reducing the impact of consumption, and that's one of the Sustainable Development Goals that the UN outlined. But it also feeds, also explains in a nice short way everything that we were feeling as we were trying to address this problem. And the way that we are going to go about achieving that is by influencing purchasing decisions. So Impact Score is a sustainable ratings engine. That's what we do. We give ratings to companies based on a myriad of things, and I'll go into what we look at in a second, for all different aspects of sustainability. And we do that for companies, and we do it for products as well. The three threads which you can read through in your own time on the left hand side, that they're how we do business. So they're things that we keep as core threads, that we weave it through everything that we do: execution, differentiation, and ethics. So that's just a little bit about who we are and how we do business. And on the right hand side, you can see how we view the environment that we work in. So citizens are the ones that are consuming. They are, for us, our users, because we have an application, which I'll go into a second. But they are also customers of other businesses. For you guys, they're your networks, they're members, they're people that are making purchasing decisions. So we see them as one group of people. We also have businesses, which are the guys that are creating products, providing services. They make up the supply chains of bigger businesses. And then we see ourselves as the third circle in that. So we obviously do ratings on those products and on those businesses. And then we have the idea is that it's a virtuous circle, that as we give the information to more citizens, they make better decisions, which then drives businesses to create better products in order to sell more to citizens. And we enable that, and we sit in the middle of that. So I'm not going to go into all our measures because there's plenty, but this is just to give you a flavour of what we do. This is the 14 things that we look at for products. So I'll give you a second just to have a look at those kind of things. We have this broad definition of sustainability, which encompasses all of these things, and they're constantly changing. I'll talk in a second about how we're working on that. And I'm sure when you guys have a look at these things, you'll see things that you recognize as part of sustainability, and perhaps some things that you don't recognize as part of sustainability. But what we try and do is have a holistic view of what the word means, and keep updating and keep making sure that whenever our users use our app, or whenever our data is shown elsewhere, that it represents fairly what sustainable impact a product or a service is having. So that's basically what we do. Just give you a quick overview of what we've been doing recently. So our 2022 was good. We felt like it was hard work. We were going into a headwind with the cost of living crisis as is. People were a lot more focused on the cost of products and the cost of services, and sustainability slipped a little bit. So we felt like we were fighting a bit of a headwind, but nevertheless, I think we've done okay. We now have the largest product sustainability database in the UK. So these are just some stats. You can read them for yourselves. I think the key ones for me are that there's 280,000 products. That's almost everything that you'll see in your major supermarket shelves, plus a few other smaller supermarkets. And that we've got over 80,000 downloads. I think it's coming up onto 89,000 downloads as we speak. So we're reaching people. We're not reaching as many as we would like. I don't think we would ever reach as many as we would like, but we're reaching a lot of people, and we feel like that's amplifying the effect that we're having. We also had a good year because we won the award. We were nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year award from Octopus, which was brilliant. And along with the recognition that came with, we got to go and go to their offices and meet with their marketing people and their investment people, and it was a fantastic opportunity for us to realize, or for us to elevate ourselves and plan to how do we get to the next level from where we are now. And I don't know if anyone knows or is a customer of Octopus, but they've got a really good relationship with their customers, and their feedback is that they've kind of revolutionized the energy industry specifically, and they are a lot more communicative with their customers. So we took a lot on from them. So that's our 2022. It's been productive, but what's next? And this might be where you guys can connect with us and help us funnel what's coming next. We've got some big stuff going on at the moment. We're working with the University of Chester, specifically with CREST, which is I'm going to get the acronym wrong now, but it's their sustainability research team. That's definitely wrong because that doesn't spell CREST, but we're working with those guys. And the point of that is to make sure that our sustainability ratings are the best that they can possibly be. I already think we're the best out there, but we really need to keep pushing at that because as we've all experienced, there's an awful lot of greenwashing out there, and a lot of people saying that they're the most sustainable in a certain niche just so that they can slap it all over their marketing. And for a lot of people, sustainability is just shorthand for marketing. So we need to make sure that we're not doing that, and that we are actively reflecting the impact of a product and a service to the best of our ability. So CREST are helping us out with that. We're also working on how we get the information out to people. So that works both within our app. We're currently working on the next generation of our app with the MSc students at the computer science department at Chester. And so hopefully early in this quarter, we'll have some new versions of the app that we've got to come out, and we've got to work on how to build, but that's exciting. That's things like, how do you improve your shopping list over time? That's better recommendations, or how do you buy locally, those kind of things. But we're also looking at how we make an impact with this data outside of the frame of our application. We've got a pilot going on down south with a supermarket. We've got our scores in their online presence, and then that's hopefully influencing people to buy better in that particular pilot. And if it works, then we can roll out and we can scale this to anywhere else that people buy the products that we rate. And then we're also working with, well, we were working this year with Chester Council on delivering higher quality sustainable products to people within the wider Chester area, particularly Blacon, I think was the where we were looking at doing this in the form of food boxes and food parcels. But this does seem to have stalled a little bit towards the end of 2022. So hopefully we'll be kicking all this back off again this year. So be looking forward to that. I think it would be incredibly powerful as well as helping people make a decision, we can also help them fulfill it. And that we can then point people towards smaller independent businesses, and Chester's full of these kind of businesses that people put their heart and soul into, but they don't have access to a wide hundreds of thousands of people that will be shopping online, and hopefully we can help with those kind of things as well. So that's it really. That's who we are, where we've come from, and what we're looking to do. We're always looking for people to get involved, and people that might be able to help us with what we're doing, or we can help with what other people are doing. Always looking for criticism, always looking for anyone that wants to give any feedback, and we're more than happy to speak to people, as the guys said before. Yeah, so that's it. I'm happy to answer some questions, as many questions as we've got now, but if not, I will also chuck my email address into the chat just after this, and I'm sure Ian will do the same, and we're more than happy to speak to anyone about what we do.
Great, thank you very much. Just on that subject of collaboration and work, it's probably worth Rebecca you saying what you've put in the chat there, because I think that's really interesting, the collaboration potential there.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I'm just reading the message.
Yeah. Maybe Rebecca's.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I'm here. You faded out a bit, Steve. I wasn't sure whether that was the invitation to come in or not.
Apologies. Yes, go ahead.
That's okay. Josh and Ian, it would just be really good to compare notes. So the app that Catherine and I have developed is very much more basic because we had a very limited budget to develop ours, but we're looking for funding and mechanisms to take it larger. It does something somewhat different to what yours does, but I think it still might be interesting to compare notes. I'll get you an email.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Yeah. Any advice we can give, we'd be happy to. We did start on a shoestring budget, and to be honest, we are still on a shoestring budget. We're hoping that quite soon to be trying to get it to wash its own face. But as with all of these things, it's how much do you focus on getting it to do what you want it to do, and how much you focus on getting it to make you the money. So yeah, more than happy to have those conversations, and any help we can, we'll give you.
Fab. Thank you.
Great. We've got a question from Chodna.
Yes, hi. I've just looked at it. It looks great, and I was just about to download it, and I thought, I wonder what they do with my data.
That's great question. So you mean you're safe to download it? So the app was built with the principle that we don't keep and store data. We do have, so we've got a feedback with our users that we've done recently, a big survey, and the feedback was that the app is good and it does the job that it's set out to do. The issue is that it only goes 70% of the way that people want, of how far people want it to go. So they want to be able to track themselves. They want to be able to connect it to bank accounts. They want to be able to do all these other things which you can't do without tracking data. So at the moment, we don't do any of those things. We are in talks with the user group as well as with how, our like technical team of how we can achieve some of these things. But we're really conscious of that, and we don't want to be someone that just scrapes data from our users. We don't want to extract data from our users. We want to give them more information. But it's something we're battling through at the moment. But at the moment, we don't take any data, and we're always very open and honest with the users about about how we use any data that we do take.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Great. Any other questions?
Brilliant. I think Ian has put mine and his email addresses into the chat. So
my signal might not be the best, but okay.
There's also a question,
Right.
Josh, in the chat to you from Simon at the zoo as well about sustainable palm oil, just in case. Scroll
oh,
up a bit.
sorry, no, I did miss that one. Yeah, we've actually we've worked with the zoo in earlier on when setting our sustainable palm oil badge, and it is one of our most controversial badges. Probably not the right way to put it, because we stick behind everything that we say about it, but a lot of talk does get brought up about our palm oil badge, and we are aware of the apps that that have come out very, very recently, have been announced, and we're keeping an eye, and we've had conversations with those guys as well. We are not very competitive when it comes to these things. Whatever is going to have the highest impact, we're open and ready to do. So we'll see what happens if we could integrate within our application the tool that they're building, or maybe we can collaborate in some other way. But yeah, we are aware of them, and we're fully supportive of them. Yeah.
We did speak to Kat about it, Simon, but probably a year ago, and it's probably right that we pick it up again, because I don't think either of us followed it through particularly well. So we currently use the RSPO data in the main, rightly or wrongly, as Josh is saying. So it's a good pointer for us to re-catch up with Kat. Good call.
Thanks. If you could, that'd be brilliant, because our app has now come out, was out from August, and I think if we just basically try and work together on it so that it's consistent, would be perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
of course.
Very good. Great to see collaboration happening because of the forum. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions on that, I might just move on to the last couple of bits. As long as I'm coming through, okay. So next thing on the agenda, as I have it, is hydrogen update. So there's just two things I wanted to say on this. One is to point people in the direction of the low carbon hydrogen standard. So I've just put the link in the chat there now. So over the last colours of I froze, you all seem to not be moving.
We can hear you intermittently. Don't know whether you can hear us.
Okay. Yes, I can. Thank you, Tammy. So yes, as I was saying, there's been a lot of conversation about what are quite qualitative descriptions of different hydrogen types, whether, as I mentioned, whether that's blue or green or pink. None of these actually have a specified amount of CO2 that's emitted per megajoule of hydrogen. That's now changing with the low carbon hydrogen standard. So from in future, I believe it will just it'll just be low carbon hydrogen or not low carbon hydrogen. And like I said, the what have been qualitative descriptions, whether it's green or blue or pink or grey or whatever the colour might be. That's hopefully should be a thing of the past, and it will be either low carbon hydrogen or not low carbon hydrogen. And so that's an update that's come out of BEIS as of the 21st of September, and you can see in the link there what's happening. Yes, and so the only other thing that I wanted to mention with regards to hydrogen is there's QAC has a climate emergency task force meeting on the 2nd of February in Ellesmere Port. I think that's from 6 till 8:30. I think there is the possibility of public attendance as well as the members of the climate emergency task force meeting, and I believe either the meeting will be streamed or recorded as well, so it's something to maybe pick up on. Okay, as long as I'm still coming through and you can still hear me, I'll move on to any other business. There's a couple of things in here. Neil, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, that's okay. If I can just, I've got a couple of slides, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Can you see that okay? So I just wanted to make people aware of this report that's come out of Chester University on enabling skills for industrial decarbonisation, which is on the back of us winning the Track 1 status for a net zero industry. And very quickly, there's going to be 20,000 jobs associated with the initial build phase, and then 11,000 jobs for the operational phase. Most of it's construction and engineering jobs. In relation to the stuff that was being talked about earlier, half the jobs are in the supply chain, which is typically largely SMEs. So there's a big opportunity for SMEs locally who are probably going to have good ESG credentials to win the contracts. And we're working with NatWest actually to talk about that to SMEs at the Expo this year. All these jobs are commutable from Chester, as you can see from all the dots on this graph here. Maybe the more interesting thing, some of the more detailed information is coming out now. There's peak investment in Chester. We're going to be the first part of the UK to get this level of investment. Peak of the investment is 2030, when it goes to £6 billion a year, which is a big number. To give you an idea, in the total GDP of Cheshire West and Chester is 12 billion. So it's a very big increase in local business activity, and there's a lot of jobs on the back of it. Most of the 28% of the jobs are professional, 72% are technical. So most of the jobs will be people trained by the college rather than the university. It seems to me to be a very big opportunity, and I'd like to suggest you get someone who wrote the report, which is Kirsty Simpson from the business school, to maybe go through the detail. There's lots of opportunities to upskill people, get people into higher value jobs, get people out of unemployment. And in relation to Steve's initial thing about schools, we've just got 40,000 quid of funding to develop a business plan for a careers centre, and we're working with the university and the college. So anyway, 30,000 jobs locally in the next 10 years. I think it's quite an exciting possibility. Thank you.
Indeed, absolutely, especially given, as you say, the type of industries that they're looking to be in. Okay, Richard Beach.
Hi, you're right. Sorry I was late.
Right.
Can I share my screen? Is that possible?
I imagine you should be able to. Yeah.
You can see my ironing behind me. It's not what I've come to show you. This isn't getting published till tomorrow, but I know it will be of interest to everybody on this call, and it's kind of embargoed until tomorrow, so don't tell anybody that I've showed it. But this is a flyer that's going out about the Chester City Gateway project, which is a massive regeneration programme over the next 10 years around Chester train station, which will hopefully include a pedestrian and cycle bridge over the Hall Bridge, as well as an extra train platform to allow for more train movements through the train station, plus housing and various other bits and bobs in the area that you can see in this picture. I don't know if you're able to orientate yourself, but it's obviously along the rail tracks, and you can see the shot tower in the distance there, and obviously the city's over to the right hand side and Hull's over to the left hand side, if that makes sense. So there is a large sort of consultation process going on through January. These are the dates for it. So if any of you are interested in wanting to go along to any of these events to sort of make a point about types of housing, you know, expectations around net zero, and you know what we want to do with the train station, and there's all ideas about linking the greenways directly into the train station along the back of Ermine Road. It's really, really good what they're planning. There's these 6 key moves, or 5, maybe 5 key moves, but they basically encapsulate these 8 things, which is, as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, about the replacement of the bridge, new greening stuff, different active travel routes, improvements to the train station. There's ideas around including access to the train station from Lightfoot Street, for example, so that you don't have to cross over into Hall Bridge, that you can, you know, when you go to other cities and sometimes other countries in Europe, and it's getting into a train station is accessible from lots of different angles instead of just one, which seems eminently sensible. So there's all of those kind of things as well. So if you aren't able to attend any of the events, that's going to be the web address there, and you'll be able to have a read of it and comment online as well. But if you're able to go to any of the events, that would be good.
Yeah, leave it on the events one, maybe.
I will. They're there on a map for people that didn't know where any of them were. So if and this leaflet's getting delivered to about I can't remember how many houses, but it's a lot. And I suspect most of you will get one through your door. It's pretty much all of the city centre, everything north of the city, Upton, Poole, you know, I think down to Hambridge, the area that they've chosen. They had a limit on the number of houses, so it's a huge amount of the city that's going to get a leaflet, and then obviously spread the word as well. But it's not just the council. It's it's mostly being driven by London Continental Railways and Network Rail, who obviously own a lot of the land around that area, and they want to do something that's obviously benefits them, but they want it to be something that benefits the city as well. And some people in the past would have been on some groups that were about sort of the approach into Hull. There was an organisation called Fifth Studio that did quite a lot of work on how the city is presented as you come over the Hull Bridge, and all of those junction improvements and changes to the bars roundabout to make it less of a barrier, to make part of the plans, part of the proposal show City Road much more as a sort of nice boulevard with trees planted and sort of active travel routes, rather than sort of being quite car heavy. So I think for some of the people that are on this group, it's the kind of transformational change that hopefully you'll be quite happy with, although I suspect it won't be loved by everybody, as we've experienced in the not so recent past. But I'm sure I'm in safe hands here. Is that all right, Steve?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
please, as I say, it's all coming out tomorrow, and if you can all get your thoughts in there. They're really good people that are doing the consultations. They're called Royal Pilgrim or something. They've been employed as a communications group, and they really do want a good job of it. So do turn up to the sessions if you're able to do so, and if you're not, then just do it online. Okay, shall I take this down?
Yeah, take that down. I think we'll hopefully should be able to include those dates in the notes if Martin's scribbled them quickly enough. But yeah. Anyway, okay, John.
Thanks, Steve. I have been asked to mention an event that's happening on the 18th of January Una Meehan from the university has asked me to mention it. It's an online panel discussion to discuss, explore and discuss the new postgraduate certificate in conservation and sustainability education. So I think some of the people on the call might know all about this already, but I'll post the details of it in the chat, just so that you can have a look. That was all.
Great, fantastic, thank you. John Taken.
Yeah, I just want to put in a very quick plug for a Chester World Development Forum event coming up on Tuesday evening from 7 o'clock in the Unity Centre. We're having a follow-up on the COP27, specifically on the loss and damage, which was a new initiative within the COP process. It's talks being given by Jill Miller.
Great. Thank you for that, John. Okay, getting close to the end now, I think. Final thing that I wanted to mention from my point of view, the Gaia exhibition is in the cathedral as of the 8th of Feb. There's a launch event happening on the 8th of Feb, and from then on, there's the exhibition of this giant globe, which is quite impressive if you haven't seen it before. Yeah, that's the final plug from me. Anybody else? Anything else? Oh, look at that! 1 minute to 9. It's like I planned it as well. Yes. Okay. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, but just for anyone who wasn't on the call at that time, the next meeting will be on the Thursday, the 2nd of March, and we will be hopefully mainly in person with some people who can't attend in person, attending online. So a hybrid meeting, but hopefully, as I say, with the majority of people in person. Okay, I think that's everything. Thank you all very much, and yeah, speak to you soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.